This edition of PewterPirates.com brought to you by House of Brews Tavern and Grill. More than beer, House of Brews gives you great food and always great fun. And speaking of food and fun, we'd like to thank our co-title sponsor, Sea Dog Brewing Company. Its Clearwater location and its Treasure Island Brewery by the beach boast the exclusive combo of giving its patrons a New England brewery complemented by a Gulf-inspired menu. Welcome back to PewterPirates.com's Extra Slice. I'm Mike Nabors, along with our Buccaneer insider Roy Cummings here at Raymond James Stadium. Boy, if you're a Buccaneer fan watching this game, so close yet so far, huh?
Yeah, tale of two halves. Buccaneers in control that first half, I think surprisingly so. I don't think a lot of people thought the Saints would come out and play at the level they did the first half. Bucs had a lot to do with that, defensively in particular. But then all of a sudden, all it takes, is a couple of things to go against you, and a couple of missed kicks and a blocked punt really changed the path of this game for the Buccaneers. I mean, just nowhere near the same team in the second half after all that, and that's what it came down to, and it's an unfortunate loss for them.
We'll get to that blocked punt, but let's get to Cairo Santos. I think those two missed field goals, I don't know how much it took out of the Buccaneers, but they could have been up 20-3 at one point.
Yeah, they had them right where they wanted them. You're up 14-3, and if you add those 6 points, all of a sudden it's 20-3. And look, I don't think the Saints quit at that point. If any team's going to come back from down 20-3, 17 points is not that much. It's the Saints who can do it. But again, momentum shifts, and that was the beginning of kind of the sails going flat for the Buccaneers. Again, that's 6 points you left out there. The problem with those situations is not only does your offense start to second guess itself because it went all the way and got into position to score, and don't get the touchdown, but you're in position to score, you get nothing. Now the defense has got to go out there, and they feel there's more pressure on them. And again, it becomes a mental game at that point, and that's really what got the Bucs.
What's crazy is the weather. You thought the weather would really play a part in this game, especially early on, but right before kickoff, the skies cleared, and it really maybe cleared the way for two great passing offenses, but the tempo of this game, a far cry from that first game in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think both teams, because of the weather conditions, I think they knew that the weather was going to be tough or planned for it that way, and they both kind of said, you know what, we're going to ground it out this time. We're going to keep the ball on the ground for the most part, try to just wear out the other team, and I think both teams went that route and didn't get away from it because, let's face it was working for the Buccaneers early, and then again the Saints, once they get the momentum, it starts working for them. They didn't have to throw the ball because they were running it so effectively. So, not anywhere near the kind of game we thought it was going to be in terms of a strategy, but again, effective for both sides, only effective for one half for the Bucs and effective for the second half for the Saints.
Jameis Winston came so close to having 3 straight games without an interception. Late in the game, Marshawn Lattimore picked one off. But, evaluate Jameis Winston. I thought early on, boy, he made some really good decisions, some really good throws. It wasn't a perfect game, but you see the maturation process a little bit.
Yeah, wasn't as sharp today with his passes as he has been. Not sure what happened with Mike Evans. He disappeared from the game, and I think that affected him a little bit. But early on he was very sharp, and then later on not quite as sharp. And I think you're right. Decision making was good for the most part, but he'll tell you 4 sacks today. He probably needs to throw the ball away on a couple of those. Find a way to get out of that scrum and somehow just get rid of the ball as opposed to taking a couple of those sacks. He was under duress a lot. So again, overall, yeah, you want to be you're happy with the way he made decisions today. The one pick at the end, yeah, it counts against the stats, but I don't think you can count against in terms of evaluating Jameis Winston because he's clearly throwing the ball into 8-9 guys in the secondary, and you're just hoping for something to break your way there.
No doubt about it. Well, that's the offensive side of things, our quick reaction. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk defense, but first, a message from our co-title sponsor, House of Brews. There are a lot of neighborhood bars, but there is only one.
House of Brews!
It's now better than ever, freshly remodeled with a new U-shaped bar, where it's clear everybody's having fun at the
House of Brews.
Armed with a full liquor and wine selection, House of Brews houses a large selection of brews. But come on, this place is more than brews. The food takes it to a whole different level. A fresh daily scratch menu serves up a wide variety of favorites, leaving customers always satisfied. at the
House of Brews.
not your average neighborhood bar. Oh, it's so much more. Welcome back to PewterPirates.com's Extra Slices. Myself and Roy Cummings break down their loss to the New Orleans Saints. They split with the NFC South champions this year. We talked offense. The defense, to me, kind of a mixed bag in this game, but they had some bad breaks, too.
Yeah, they did. They got left on the field a lot. When you have the block punt, that puts you in a tough situation defensively. When you miss field goals, that puts you in a tough spot defensively. And again, against arguably, easily one of the top 3, 4, 5 offenses in the NFL. That's tough to do. Again, early on, give the defense credit. They made some big stops. They had a big 4th and 1 stop down here, or 3rd and 1 stop to force field goal attempts. They made stops when they had to. I think at the end of the day, they just got left on the field a little bit too much. Reminded me a lot of some of the games earlier this season when turnovers kept putting them into bad positions. Today, it was missed scoring opportunities, and then, again, that block punt that is almost like a turnover that put them in tough situations. It's tough to continue to play at a high level when you're out on the field the whole second half, and they were. That's when you start to get tired. That's where you want to be as an offense. You want to be on the field late and have that defense out there a lot, wear them down, and then take advantage of their fatigue. And really, I think that's what the Saints did.
One positive for this Bucs defense for the 3rd straight week, more takeaways from a New Orleans offense, which save the Cowboys game in the Bucs' first game has really played lights out so far this season. I think, with all these injuries and with all these moving parts, that bodes well for this team moving forward now.
Yeah, it really does. We're starting to see more of what this defense was supposed to be. Again, the pass rush was pretty good today. At times, Carl Nassib with a sack, obviously. The only sack, but there were times when they pressured Drew Brees. I mean, he only threw for 201 yards. You do that with Drew Brees, you're usually going to be pretty happy. Granted, 24-32, but, not a whole lot of big plays in there. So, I think the Bucs did a pretty good job in terms of rushing the passer, taking the ball away. Again, they won the turnover battle. That's important. They did that, and again, you got big games out of Carl Nassib again. Yeah. You got another big game out of JPP. A guy who's really stepping up, in my opinion, is Jordan Whitehead. This kid is starting to show. I think he might be the best hitter on this team. He's a safety who kind of plays an old school kind of game. Got a little bit of John Lynch in him. Can't play at that level these days, but I mean, he comes pretty close. I mean, that's a guy who you're going to remember number 31 if you played against the Buccaneers, and that's a good thing. So again, we're starting to see good things out of individual players. It's when we continue to see it on a consistent basis from the group, that's when you'll know that these guys are where they want to be.
Yeah, we talked about defense, we talked offense, we had immediate reaction, but right after this break from our other co-title sponsor, Sea Dog Brewing Company, we're going to talk perspective of this Buccaneer team moving forward with only 3 games left on the schedule. Now, you want a drinking and dining experience like no other in Tampa Bay? Well, Sea Dog Brewing Company is the place for you. Its Treasure Island location gives its patrons a beautiful waterfront view with 6 brand new boat slips and more to come. This Sea Dog location has a great selection with local brews, all made in clear water, and the specials. You have daily happy hour Monday through Friday from 2 to 6. Mug Club Monday features $6 mules. Taco Tuesdays are always popular, but don't pass up the $9.99 Fish Fry Thursdays. And on the weekends, enjoy a Sea Dog Brewery Sunday brunch by the beach. So check out Sea Dog Brewery at Treasure Island, 9610 Gulf Boulevard, Treasure Island, Florida, 727-954-7805. Welcome back. Our final segment here on PewterPirates.com's Extra Slice. I'm Mike Nabors with Roy Cummings breaking down Bucs versus Saints. We thought before the Saints game this team kind of had to win out to make the playoffs. Where do they stand right now with 3 games left?
Well, they have to, we were talking about it before the game, a bunch of guys in the press box. What really does Dirk Koetter have to do to keep his job? I think the consensus was he has to win 3 of the last 4. If you do that, you've won, 5 of the last 6. That's not a bad finish. This is arguably the best team in the NFC. You lost to them because of a block punt and a couple, and what a surprise, a couple of missed field goals. Right. Overall, I thought the Bucs played very well. They had the Saints right where they want them a couple of times, weren't able to finish today. That's going to happen. I still think there's time for Dirk Koetter to kind of save his job. Look, the fans are going to go back right to where they were, back to griping and calling for people's heads and everything else. Funny, this game was lost probably because of special teams. I doubt that anybody calls for Nate Katzer's head. They've already called for Mike Smith's head. They got that. They want Dirk Koetter's head. They'll probably get that. But I'm sure Nate Katzer won't even be remembered because he is the BUCS special teams coordinator. Is he the man responsible for the loss today? No, but think about that when you start calling for head coaches' heads and defensive coordinators' heads. It's usually the players who are responsible, not the coordinators and coaches.
Last thought, and I know this game is over. We have an empty field behind us, but boy, Roy, if they win this game, talk about the momentum they could have had. I mean, I think that is this season in a nutshell. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Really.
Yeah, it's like a rocket booster. It really takes them, again, going on the road for a couple at Baltimore, at Dallas. Tough games in themselves, but certainly I don't think as tough as this game here. If they win this one, everybody's talking about the Buccaneers throughout the NFL. They become somebody you talk about because now they're legitimately in the playoff picture. The Saints are reeling. Everybody's wondering what happened to the Saints. Are they going to finish slow now? And it's not going to happen. So the Bucs have to rally themselves again. This is a test. This is a real test of Dirk Koetter. And you know what? Maybe that's good because we're going to find out what Dirk Koetter is really made of as a coach now because he's got to finish this with nothing really to play for. The playoff hopes are really shot now. With 8-8, probably the best he can do. Right now, what the Bucs have to do is they have to find a way to win these last three and save jobs. So let's see if they can do it. If they can do it, there's still reason to keep Dirk Koetter around and look at this team going into 2019 as somebody to be reckoned with.
Not a lot of passes on the schedule. Tough roadie against Baltimore. The Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons are going to be hungry in that last game here at Raymond James Stadium. Like you said, no winning record this year. We know that. And mathematically, they're still alive for the playoffs. But, boy, it looks like a long shot at this point. Well, I'm Mike Nabors. This is Roy Cummings. We'd like to thank our co-title sponsors, House of Brews and Sea Dog Brewing Company. This has been PewterPirates.com's Extra Slice from BUCS vs. Saints.